I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
He made a name for himself as a reliable, rough-and-tumble supporting player in some of Hollywood's biggest films. Tom Sizemore was always delivering raw, gritty, real performances that were so good he made you forget he was acting. But over the last decade or so, you would be more likely to see his name, Tom Sizemore, pop up on a police report than on a movie marquee. Sizemore fought in some of the greatest war movies ever made, but Tom's real war was substance abuse and addiction. He could have been a contender. He could have been the next Brando or De Niro. But no, cocaine is a hell of a drug. And so is meth and heroin. And he did them all. So, how did Tom Sizemore go from being on the big screen in front of the camera to in the big house behind bars? Did he ever overcome those struggles? Or is he still dealing with the heat? With a credit list that includes films by names such as Spielberg, SCORSESE, Stone, Mann, 2 Scotts and a Bay, it's time we ask what the f*** happened to Tom Sizemore.
Remember me? No.
I want to say thanks for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe. Make sure to click that bell if you want to get notifications. You know, if you're into this kind of stuff. Now, back to the show. But to truly understand what the f*** happened to Tom Sizemore, we must begin at the beginning, and the beginning began when he was born on his birthday, Detroit, Michigan, 1961. Tom Sizemore has been fighting drug addiction since he was a teen, balancing his love of acting with his love of illegal narcotics. 1989 would be the beginning of his career, with small roles in the films Rude Awakening and Penn and Teller Get Killed, as well as Sylvester Stallone's prison flick Lock Up, which is kind of funny because prison is exactly where Tom was heading, but we'll get to that later. Also in that year of 1989, Tom Sizemore would play a veteran in Oliver Stone's critically acclaimed Academy Award-winning Born on the 4th of July. In the early 90s, it wouldn't be uncommon to see Tom Sizemore stealing scenes in films such as A Matter of Degrees, Blue Steel, the John Milius Vietnam War film Flight of the Intruder, Guilty by Suspicion, the Keanu Reeves surfing crime action flick classic Point Break, Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man, and Where Sleeping Dogs Lie, while also finding time to appear in Season 3 of the Vietnam-based TV series China Beach.
There's 2 keys. Uncut. Crystal meth.
In the year 1992, Tom Sizemore would start gaining popularity and landing larger roles in films, such as the Wesley Snipes action flick Passenger 57 in 1992, Hearts and Souls in 1993, for which he would receive an Academy of Science Fiction Saturn Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor, as well as an outstanding performance spitting out some of that Quentin Tarantino dialogue, while being directed by Tony Scott in True Romance in 1993.
Good fucking movie.
Fucking A. Great fucking movie.
He would go up against Bruce Willis in the action flick Striking Distance, also in 1993. And Mr. Tom Sizemore would join the ensemble cast of the epic western Bomb, Wyatt Earp, in 1994. You know, the one that's not Tombstone. But for me, one of Tom Sizemore's greatest roles came in 1994 when he reunited with director Oliver Stone for the massively violent, anti-violence film Natural Born Killers, playing Scagnetti, a psychopathic prostitute murdering detective who's obsessed with catching the murderous Mickey and Mallory. Not only does Tom Sizemore steal every scene he's in this movie, he steals the whole frickin' movie. And Natural Born Killers is a hard movie to steal. Sizemore truly understood the energy and the insanity of this wild, wild mess of a masterpiece, and he fits perfectly.
Mickey! I'm coming to get you.
Now, at this time, Tom was going hard at his cocaine habit, but it wasn't really public knowledge. And since he wanted to prove himself to be a professional, Sizemore halted his drug use during production of Natural Born Killers, but unfortunately his character had to do cocaine in a scene while murdering a prostitute, and in order to get into that mindset of this drug-fueled murderous character, sneaky and sober Sizemore switched out the movie prop cocaine for the real stuff. It really helped his performance, but it didn't really help his substance abuse problem. Like I said, you can feel Scagnetti's insanity and his thirst for violence explode off the screen. How much of this insanity and violence was real and how much was acting? Well, the world may never know. It was probably a mixture because, it's Tom Sizemore. But yeah, his performance as Scagnetti in Natural Born Killers is raw, gritty, and real. The film itself divided critics, but it made over 100 million buckaroos. 1995 would see Tom Sizemore in the massive bomb Strange Days, followed by the Denzel Washington-led Devil in a Blue Dress. That also failed to earn back its budget. Mr. Tommy Boy would follow that up with another iconic performance amongst the greatest cast ever assembled, in one of the best films ever made, Michael Mann's Heat. Appearing as a member of Robert De Niro's gang of bank robbers, Sizemore meets his maker in what has gone down to be one of, if not the greatest gun battle scene ever put on film. Critics called the film Heat an engrossing crime drama with compelling performances, and one of those performances was Tom Sizemore. Audiences showed up to the tune of 187.4 million. And yeah, Tom Sizemore gives it his all in this one. It's raw, gritty, and real. In 1997, Tom Sizemore would get his chance to lead a film with the monster horror film The Relic. Critics weren't really digging this, they called it unoriginal, but it did manage to open up first place at the box office, but it didn't really do well overall, money-wise. But nowadays, people are beginning to appreciate this relic of a creature feature. In 1998, Tom Sizemore would star as John Gotti in the made-for-TV film Witness to the Mob, followed by the biggest hit of his career, joining another amazing ensemble with the $482.3 million grossing masterpiece, Saving Private Ryan, directed by Steven Spielberg. This is one of the greatest films ever made, but not as great as Shakespeare in Love, apparently. Tom Sizemore would be nominated, along with the rest of the cast of Saving Private Ryan, for a Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by a Cast, as well as being singled out by the Satellite Awards for a nomination as Best Supporting Actor for his role. Well deserved. Legend has it Steven Spielberg himself threatened Tom Sizemore with a drug test at any moment that he suspected any funny business with drugs, but Tom Sizemore remained sober throughout the entire production of Saving Private Ryan, while turning in a standout, magnificent performance that once again can only be described as raw, gritty, and real.
We're in business, definitely! Other side of the hole!
Tom Sizemore claims that he was sober from the years 1997 to 2002, but in 1999 his wife divorced him, citing drug issues, so I don't know. This sober thing seems to be kinda off and on. Next, Tom Sizemore would reunite with director Tony Scott in the excellent conspiracy theory, action thriller smash hit, Enemy of the State. And yeah, this starred Will Smith before the slap, so, it made over $250 million. In the final year of the century, we would see Tom Sizemore appear in the underperforming boxing flick Play It to the Bone, followed by Martin Scorsese's underperforming ambulance flick Bringing Out the Dead, alongside Nicolas Cage. Another great film, another great performance, and another box office bomb. Sizemore would, however, get a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actor in a miniseries for his performance in HBO film Witness Protection. Back when we were allowed to care about the Golden Globes.
You told Theo!
Then came the new millennium, the year 2000, and Tom Sizemore would continue kicking ass in supporting roles, like in Red Planet, and a voice-only role in Sylvester Stallone's Get Carter, while in 2001 we would see Sizemore step back into combat for Pearl Harbor. This Michael Bay-directed 3-hour opus was deemed a financial disappointment. Even though it made nearly $450 million worldwide, the studio thought it would do much better. But yeah, everybody knows that the Pearl Harbor movie sucks. But I got nothing bad to say about Tom Sizemore's performance, though. After appearing opposite Steven Seagal and Nos in Ticker, Tom Sizemore would again appear in what many consider to be one of the greatest war movies ever made, Ridley Scott's Black Hawk Down. Once again, Sizemore joins an amazing cinematic platoon, full of badass soldiers, and Tom Sizemore fits right in. Raw, gritty, and real. In the year 2002, Tom Sizemore would appear in the highly acclaimed TV movie, Sins of the Father. He would follow that up by a very underrated comedy film called Big Trouble. This movie's actually pretty good. A fun crime comedy that maybe in the hands of the Coen brothers or something, it would have been a classic. Tom Sizemore and Johnny Knoxville play to perfection two moronic ex-convicts, but sadly the film features a bomb on a plane which caused the release date to change because of 9/11. Big Trouble did not seem to catch on with audiences or anybody. It's like hilarious and has an all-star cast, and Tom, he's part of it. Then came roles in Swindle in 2002, Pauly Shore is Dead in 2003, there was the sci-fi horror flick Dreamcatcher, based on a Stephen King book, I think. A horror movie inspired by his real fears of the paparazzi, and the baseball TV movie Hustle. At this time, Tom Sizemore was a fixture on screens both big and small, but his drug addiction was still consuming his life and his bank account, resulting in a very desperate attempt to make money with a Tom Sizemore sex tape. And yeah, this one's also raw, gritty, and real. However, it was at this time that his off-screen antics started to catch up with him. In the year 2003, it all seemed to finally hit the fan when he was arrested for domestic violence against his then-girlfriend, famed Hollywood madam, Heidi Fleiss. Sizemore would be sentenced to 7 months in prison, with 4 months in a drug treatment facility, where he would repeatedly fail drug tests. He even tried to use a fake wiener to get that clean pee in his cup. There's something called the Whizzinator. But yeah, while in prison, Tom Sizemore was a target due to his Hollywood status, resulting in numerous fights with fellow inmates who wanted to make a name for themselves as the man who killed Tom Sizemore. But Tom was tough and survived his days behind bars, which led him to the world of reality TV, the only gig that would take him. Tom Sizemore would be featured on the 3rd season of the VH1 reality TV series Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew, alongside his former girlfriend, Heidi Fleiss. Sizemore regrets doing the show. He only agreed to reveal his demons to the reality TV cameras because he was desperate for money. Drugs and lawyers are expensive, and Sizemore was so messed up at the time, he claims that he didn't fully understand that he was on TV. With the high-profile arrest and drug abuse, Sizemore's career took a hit. No longer working with names like Scorsese and Spielberg and Michael Mann, he would begin appearing in many direct-to-video titles, more than we even have time to name. One of Tom Sizemore's final theatrical outings came in the year 2006, with the film ZYZZYX Road. I think that's how you say it. This film is notorious for being the lowest grossing theatrical release in film history, pulling in 30. Not 30,000, 30. $30. Sadly, Tom Sizemore's up and down struggles with the law and addiction have pretty much continued since, off and on. In 2007, Sizemore would be arrested again for possession of meth while still on probation. Almost overnight, he had lost millions that he had made from making his movies. Tom found himself basically homeless, squatting in a building for 2 years with no running water or electricity. But none of that mattered to Tom Sizemore because he had his meth. Sizemore had hit rock bottom. He even tried to kill himself. Thank God he survived. Then came his longest stretch of sobriety, after his friend and mentor Robert De Niro personally checked him into rehab in 2013. Sizemore kinda owes his career and his life to Bobby De Niro.
The addiction had become, I didn't even like it anymore, but I could not stop doing it.
Around this time, many in the press were actually writing articles about Tom Sizemore's comeback and sober resurrection. But that good press did not last very long, as he had other accusations thrown at him, such as while filming the direct-to-video film Born Killers aka Piggy Banks, Sizemore was told to leave the set of the film after an unnamed 11-year-old actress accused Tom Sizemore of inappropriately touching her. The little girl, along with her parents, did speak to police about the incident, but did not press charges. And when producers told Sizemore why he had been asked to leave the film, Sizemore replied, "I've done a lot of awful things, but I would never do anything to kids." Eventually, Tom Sizemore was brought back to finish the film, and to this day, Sizemore maintains his innocence on the matter. But the controversy didn't end there. In 2014, he was blackmailed over a video where he rants about President Clinton having an alleged affair with Elizabeth Hurley, but later, after being threatened with legal action, he would say that he made the whole story up, blaming the drugs, because everyone knows that Bill Clinton would never do such a thing. And the trouble didn't stop there. In 2016, he was fired from the TV show Shooter after Sizemore pushed the pedal to the metal in an unscripted drive-off in a car, dragging a stuntman, breaking many bones. The stuntman alleges that Tom Sizemore was drunk during the incident. Sizemore got sober for a few years during this time, but he still managed to get in trouble. In 2017, he pled no contest to domestic abuse charges, and to avoid returning to prison, Sizemore paid fees, did some community service, and got a 36-month probation. But now, Tom Sizemore is claiming sobriety again. Good for him, citing his twin sons as his motivation to stay sober. Unfortunately, we've seen it before, and relapse can come out of nowhere. And it did in 2019 when he was arrested again for possession of illegal drugs. And a year later, in 2020, he was arrested again for driving under the influence and more drug possession. The illegal kind of drugs. But from what I can tell, he has been sober since 2021. So like a few months, which is still good. It's great. It's better than 0 months. So yay. Go Tom, go.
Brought Tom Sizemore's game of life.
Sell rights to Saving Private Ryan residuals to buy a case of Coors Light.
Tom Sizemore has built his career on playing roughneck dudes with a dark side. A lot of that was just great acting, but some of it came from his own personal darkness. To me, it looks like this is a case of mo money, mo problems. The more successful Sizemore became, the more money he had to spend on his drugs, and the more drugs he did, the more his career and his health suffered. He could not successfully handle success, which resulted in failure. It's a vicious cycle. But with talent like Tom's, there is always hope. Sadly, his own demons seem to have derailed what was once a very promising career. But he still gets more work than the average actor, appearing in nearly 150 films and TV shows in the last 16 years, including a hilarious appearance on Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and a reoccurring character in the new Twin Peaks in 2017. So that's something. As well as voicing characters in the video games 24 The Game and Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Sizemore is a performer that directors loved working with, because his badass persona always came across as genuine on the screen. But when his off-screen antics started to overshadow the work, those directors stopped calling. Sizemore has said that he believes his addiction made him miss out on a bigger career, and blames nobody but himself. However, in this industry, simply being able to work is a victory in itself. And with over 35 projects in the pipeline, there will be no shortage of Sizemore for us to watch for our viewing pleasure in the coming years. Plus, he's out there teaching acting classes, so if you want to know how to act like a Sizemore, sign up. And you can reach him on that Cameo app. Despite his addictions and struggles, Tom Sizemore always took his craft seriously, and it shows in every scene he steals, which is every scene he's in. The dude even has a master's in fine arts and a PhD in theater history. He's like edumacated and stuff. And things. Tom Sizemore's battle continues. And we here at the JoBlo Movie Network, we just want to say keep fighting, Tom. We're rooting for you. So nobody should give a about what the happened to Tom Sizemore. Because, you know, he's doing just fine. Well, he's trying. Don't give up, Tom. You can do this.